Marilyn Monroe once famously said, "Imperfection is beauty, madness is genius, and it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring." At first glance, these words may seem to be playful and whimsical, as if they come from a light-hearted spirit. But as we dig deeper into their meaning, we realize that they hold profound wisdom about life, creativity, and the human experience. Monroe's words challenge conventional notions of beauty, normalcy, and what it means to live a meaningful life. Let's take a closer look at the three parts of this quote and what they mean for us. Imperfection is beauty. In a world that often prioritizes perfection, whether it's the flawless appearance of celebrities, the pristine image of success, or the immaculate presentation of life on social media, Marilyn Monroe's statement is a refreshing rebellion. She is telling us that imperfection is not something to be ashamed of, but rather, something to embrace and celebrate. Why is imperfection beautiful? Because it is authentic. It's the unique, raw, and unpolished parts of ourselves that make us human. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are, they're not perfect. They have quirks, flaws, and idiosyncrasies that make them interesting and relatable. Perfection can often feel distant and unattainable, while imperfection brings us closer to others. It allows us to connect, to empathize, and to understand each other in our shared humanity. In nature, too, imperfection creates beauty. The asymmetry of a flower's petals, the irregularity of a tree's branches, the unique marks on an animal's skin. All of these imperfections are what make nature awe-inspiring and captivating. Similarly, as human beings, it's our flaws and inconsistencies that create the beauty of our personalities, relationships, and lives. When we embrace our imperfections, we free ourselves from the impossible standard of perfection and allow our true beauty to shine through. Madness is genius. The next part of Monroe's quote challenges another common misconception: that madness and genius are mutually exclusive. We often associate genius with order, logic, and a certain level of structure, while madness is often viewed as chaotic, disordered, or unstable. But Monroe flips this notion on its head, suggesting that there's a fine line between the two, and sometimes they even overlap. Many of the greatest minds in history, artists, scientists, philosophers, and inventors, were considered mad in some way or another. Think of Vincent van Gogh, whose emotional turmoil and struggles with mental health were well known, yet he created some of the most stunning and revolutionary art the world has ever seen. Or Nikola Tesla, whose ideas were so ahead of their time that people thought he was mad. Despite the challenges they faced, their so-called madness was also the source of their genius. Their unconventional thinking, their willingness to break from societal norms, and their ability to see the world differently allowed them to achieve extraordinary things. Monroe's point is that madness, in its own way, can lead to brilliance. It's the chaotic, creative energy that fuels innovation and artistic expression. It's the refusal to conform to the rules and boundaries of traditional thought. It's the courage to follow your own path, even when others don't understand. So, instead of dismissing so-called madness or the unconventional, we should learn to embrace it as part of the creative process that leads to new ideas, groundbreaking discoveries, and transformative change. It's better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring. The final part of Monroe's quote takes us into the realm of personality and how we present ourselves to the world. In a society that often values conformity and predictability, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to fit in, to be normal, or to live life by a set of rules that everyone else follows. But Monroe encourages us to reject this idea and to embrace the ridiculous, the absurd, and the unconventional. Why is it better to be absolutely ridiculous than absolutely boring? Because life is meant to be lived fully, with passion, creativity, and spontaneity. Being ridiculous doesn't mean being reckless or irresponsible. It means embracing your individuality, allowing yourself to be playful, and not being afraid to stand out or make a fool of yourself. It's about not taking life too seriously and enjoying the moments of joy and humor that make it all worthwhile. When we allow ourselves to be ridiculous, we free ourselves from the constraints of expectation. We stop worrying about what others think of us and start living for ourselves. We give ourselves permission to laugh, to be silly, and to not care about appearing perfect. After all, some of the most memorable and joyful moments in life come from being spontaneous and embracing the ridiculousness of it all. Boring lives, on the other hand, are often lives that are constrained by fear, judgment, and the desire to fit in. People who are afraid of being seen as ridiculous often live in the shadows, hiding their true selves and suppressing their creativity. Monroe reminds us that a life without adventure, humor, and individuality is not a life worth living. It's better to be bold, to be eccentric, and to be unapologetically yourself than to live in the safe, predictable, and dull confines of what's normal. Embracing the message Marilyn Monroe's quote is a call to embrace our imperfections, our madness, and our uniqueness. It's a reminder that the most beautiful, creative, and meaningful parts of our lives come from the things that make us different, not from conforming to society's standards. It encourages us to celebrate what makes us stand out, to be unapologetic in our pursuit of authenticity, and to never be afraid of looking a little ridiculous along the way. If we can learn to embrace our flaws, think outside the box, and live boldly, we will lead lives that are rich with creativity, connection, and joy. It's in our imperfections that we find true beauty, and it's in our madness that we unlock our greatest potential. So, let go of the fear of being too much or too different, and instead, focus on being fully yourself, because that is where the magic happens.